Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 3rd of October, 2023. Coming up this Tuesday's Rant of the Crusty Podcast, episode 233, $1 billion cut from defense. Tisk, tisk, tisk. CRTCs plans to regulate the net, podcasts, and more. And of course, more slack federal liberals blaming others for their blunders. All that and more come up this Tuesday's Rant. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. I do smoke cigarettes and swear a lot and might drink coffee. Stay tuned.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 233, this Tuesday rant of the Crusty Canuck podcast. As I mentioned, $1 billion cut from defense spending, CRTC's plans to regulate the net, podcasts, and more. And of course, slack federal liberals blaming others for their problems. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I know I did because I was working, all that good stuff. And if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all over your social media platforms too. If you give me a thumbs up and give me a comment, that tells the algorithm that you're interested and other people are interested, and so on, so on, so on, and make it easier for us Canucks to get our words out there before our government censors it. Oh, yay. Wouldn't that be just fun? Said nobody. Anyhow, once again, thank you very much to everybody who has sent me some kind words over my comment section, and a couple of nice emails that I received. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. And I want to thank my American audience once again. I'm getting more downloads as we speak every day from my Podbean, my host. So thank you very much. Once again, big round of applause for all you wonderful people out there giving this Canuck a chance. Well, as the title card said, $1 billion cut from national defense. Now, to my American friends out there, Canada has never been a big defense spender. Now, I'm not trying to justify any kind of historical events, mind you. I'm not trying to justify a damn thing. But when you look at defense spending in this country, it has never, ever been a priority for Canada. Now, I've talked to certain politicians over the years when I was running federally. I would literally ask MPs that I met in my travels, and they'd always say, well, the constituents really don't want a lot of money spent on defense. And from being an ex-soldier and seeing the results of budget cuts and the results of slack and idle leadership and the results of certain decisions being made that's supposed to benefit our military, I think those MPs were full of shit. Okay. Now, I know for a fact that the average Canadian taxpayer, the average Canadian Joe or Jane or June, whoever you want to be pronounced as, or whatever, the average Canadian citizen would prefer to have some kind of defense in this country than none at all. Okay. Now, back in the late 60s, when Pierre Elliott Trudeau became prime minister, he had a real natural disdain for our military until he called in the War Measures Act, I believe in 1970, to thwart Quebec terrorism. Okay. And after that, he just didn't really give a shit. Now, mind you, it was his party that brought in the Leopard tanks and his party that brought in the F-18s when they were brand new. Okay. But you find every prime minister since then has done little to none effort in regards to keeping the military afloat and keeping it alive. Now, I'm not saying we have to have a giant military where we have to have 30 aircraft carriers and 36 submarines and supersonic fighter jets and super strategic bombers. No, I'm saying we need an Air Force that works, a Navy that works, and an Army that works. That simple. We also need to understand that there's still a generation of Canadians out there, and a lot of Canadians, a bit younger, who still think that we're just peacekeepers. And everything is just honky-dory, and Canadians will come and save the day when it comes to keeping the peace and making sure everything's lovey-dovey, when in reality, you still have to train for war when you're keeping the peace. Okay? So let's get out of that 1960s mentality. Okay, regardless of how tiny this nation is based on populace, we still have a giant landmass to look after. and it has to be defended. Now, as a libertarian, I don't believe in sending our troops in harm's way 24/7, this, that, and wherever. I believe in looking after this country and looking after what needs to be done. And in an emergency, okay, then send our men and women someplace. But we need the proper equipment and the proper capabilities to do it. Now, it's going to probably cost maybe something like $68 to maybe $70 billion a year to meet the NATO standard. Okay. But then again, when you look at this federal government, how much has been sent to other countries? How much kit? How much cash? How much ammo has been sent to other countries? Now, I'm going to queue up a couple of stories here, too, in regards to our defense spending. My old boss, CDS Wainwright, he used to be our CO when I was with the Omelette back in 2007. Okay. He had some valid points, but I'm not really impressed with him, just the way he traded the whole pandam and how he made the jibby jabs an issue for our men and women. And about 306 of them, I think, were actually kicked out of the military because of their stance against the jibby jab, but I digress. Anyway, here's a story from Lauren Gunter from the Toronto Sun and his assessment in regards to our defense spending and lack thereof. So I'll just cue this up here for you. And I would like you guys to decide on your own and really, really think about it too, because there's nothing wrong with having good allies, but you can impress your allies by being really, really sufficient, self-sufficient at that matter too. And to stop worrying about, personal feelings when it comes to military spending. Let's start worrying about what has to be done for this country and for the men and women in uniform. So I'll just cue that up here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And we'll go right ahead with this story. Okay.
Earlier this summer, the Wall Street Journal said Canada belonged at the kids' table of NATO spending. We're only devoting about 1.2% of our GDP to national defense. The NATO goal is around 2%. Now, granted, even under the Harper Conservatives, it didn't rise to as high as 1.5%. But since the Liberals have come back in 2015, it's fallen to 1.2%, puts us very near the bottom of all the NATO countries in defense spending, because the Liberals don't understand the military. They don't understand national security. It's one of the reasons why they're not worried about Chinese interference, because they don't understand national security. And the fact that they don't understand national security and they're not spending money on our military is the reason we're not in what's called AUKUS, Australia, the UK, and US, which is a new Pacific security pact against Chinese aggression. We weren't even told it was being formed until after it was announced. No one trusted Canada enough in Australia, the UK, or the US to let us know they were forming this new alliance, much less ask us to join. So we do belong at the kids' table. And as long as Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are unserious about national defense, that's going to continue. And I think it's going to continue because they've announced that they're going to cut $1 billion out of our national defense budget. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot because the national defense budget is $36 billion. That's only about 6% of defense spending is coming out in this current budget. But overall, in the government, their attempts to economize, they're only cutting 3% from the rest of the budget. So they're cutting twice as much from defense spending as they are from the rest of the budget. If you want to know why it is that in the last 2 years, only one of our 4 submarines has been to sea, one of 4 has been at sea in the last 2.5 years. And it was only there for 43 days and it sprung a leak and it had to be brought back to Halifax. That's the state of our military. We're 16,000 soldiers, sailors, and air crew short of what the National Defense Department would like. And that is based on our current global mission idea. We should be having much bigger missions. We'd have to have far more than 16,000 additional troops in our armed forces. But we don't even have the 16,000 we need for the limited missions we have now. It's pathetic. You remember when the Liberals came back to power in 2015, they said, oh, yes, we're going to go big into peacekeeping. That warmonger, Stephen Harper, he only had us in NATO missions in hot zones. in live wars, we're going to go back to Canada's mission as a peacekeeper. There has never been a time in the 8 years that the Trudeau government has been in power, never been a time in those 8 years when we had as many active peacekeepers as we had during all of the Harper years. So even when we were in Afghanistan and we were in a hot war, we were still doing more peacekeeping as a nation under Harper than we are doing under Trudeau and the Liberals. It's pathetic what the Liberals have done to our armed forces. And now we hear, this may not sound immediately like it's related, now we hear that the Governor General spends $1,800 a month on dry cleaning. Why is that relevant to the defense budget? Because the Governor General is the Commander-in-Chief of our national defense forces. And if she can spend $1,800 a month on dry cleaning, when we can't even put our submarines in the water, we can't go to Haiti to try and bring order to that country that's now run by narcotics gangs, that's a symbol of what's wrong. The Commander-in-Chief should not be spending $1,800 a month on dry cleaning when we can't even buy sidearms for our troops. Join us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on all the major social media platforms. For Post Media, I'm Lauren Gunter.
Yeah, honestly, honestly, because that was an issue when we were in too about the whole sidearm issue, using the old Brownings. Now it's a decent pistol, not that great, but yeah, it does the job. The whole mentality, make do with less and work more with nothing. That's always been the Liberal brand toward military. Pathetic.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. And give me a thumbs up and a comment every time you see this. To my Rumblers especially, too. I'm getting more views in Rumble and a few more subscribers. So give yourselves a round of applause there, too. And once again, thank you very much to all my American listeners out there. They're coming from this beautiful state of Oregon, Washington, and now California, too, as well as Alaska. Thank you very much to my American listeners out there. And thank you, my wonderful audience, people who have tuned in and stuck with me this far. Like I said, the Tuesday rant topics, 1 billion cut from defense. That was not really a big surprise, but now it's national news, so people are generally concerned. And the CRTCs plans to regulate the net, podcasts, and more. And of course, Slack liberals blame others. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Crusty Canuck. If you're just catching up, that was just a summary of what this episode is about. So the CRTC, now my American listeners, CRTC is similar to your FCC. They are the federal body that regulates radio waves and TV waves. Okay. Now, there's lots of links and stories that I can probably put into the description for you. I got a couple here too. I got a story from a Michael Geist. He is basically an e-commerce trading expert. He also understands internet law, copyright law, and he's quite the genius. And he warned the CRTC a few years back when they were pondering these new regulations. Now, the CRTC is proposing, okay, now I'm not sure they made it law yet. Maybe they have. I don't know. You never know with these backdoor clowns, what they want to do. They always want to do something up the rim. No pun. Anyhow, make a long story short, they're regulating body. They're not elected. They're bureaucrats. And they decide what goes on the air, what doesn't go on the air. Basically, they regulate all radio and television in this country. What you can put on, what you can't put on, that kind of thing, in the name of safety. Now they want to branch off into podcasting world. Now, I will put some links into my description for you, ladies and gentlemen, to read. It's a big read, a lot of political farble garb, blah, blah, marbles in your mouth kind of thing. It's like, trying to shake hands with goats as far as I'm concerned. Basically, to summarize what it is, and Mr. Geist basically nails it right on the head here too. And I'll just share this part of this article here too. Basically what it is, it's just, It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry if I'm so frustrated. Even reading this, I was so frustrated on how terrible it's worded and how terrible the CRTC is just trying to take control. And of course, with with what the government has to say in the name of Bill C-18 and in the name of progress and safety and promoting Canadian content. Now, I'll leave the link for this story in the description for you wonderful people to follow. But I'll just read basically the summary of everything that's there. Okay. So it's not clear on what basis the commission believes that online advertising now falls under the Broadcasting Act for the purposes of regulating social media services. The takeaway from this decision is obvious. Registration is the first step towards regulation, with the commission already envisioning the prospect of regulating a wide range of services. Bill C-11 was never just about web giants, quote unquote, and the latest CRTC decision confirms that the extensive regulatory framework is in the works that is likely to cover podcasts, adult sites, news sites, and a host of other online video and audio services. So basically, what they want to do is they want to regulate it. Now, in the government page that I will put in the link for you, it's basically stating that if you make $10 million or more as a podcaster, one could wish I could make that much money. That'd be nice. I don't think it'll happen though. But anyway, make a long story short, they're basically saying if you're making $10 million, you'll have to register with the government. Okay. Now, Ezra Levant, outspoken, decent guy, owner and operator of Rebel Media, Rebel News. Okay. He was told by some RCMP officials who investigated him for writing a book, and they wanted him to register his book with the government. Now, I don't know about you. Okay. When the fuck do you have to register books? When do we start doing that in Canada? Now, this here is a stepping stone for podcasts, not just for, online media or online content. It's for podcasters and content creators all the same. Now we got to have government regulation telling us what we can say and what we can do too. And a lot of their excuses from Pablo Rodriguez and, the former heritage minister, now Pascal Saint-Onge, the present heritage minister, are saying we are protecting Canadian content. We want to promote Canadian content. Okay. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to pick and choose what's Canadian enough for them, what they deem as content worth promoting. Okay. That's the summary I got from everything I read here. It's just more regulation, more red tape to tell you and I what we can watch and see. And if not, then we get, gone to the dogs or in a different algorithm that they want to manipulate. And that's what it is. Okay. And I'm all for Canadian content creators. I'm for all creators. You, the viewer, you, the individual, have the responsibility to do that. You watch what you want. I don't care. If you don't like something, you change the channel, turn the page, flip another page, go to a different website, go to a different server, go to a different video feed, go to a different podcast. You have choices. It's just these clowns, okay, not Mr. Michael Geist there, but the CRTC and the people that are backing them up, okay, are stifling those choices for you and I. Okay? It's censorship, basically what it is. Oh, we'll decide what's Canadian enough for you. We'll decide what's Canadian content. Am I Canadian enough for you? I got my toque on, eh? Played some hockey, scored a lot of goals, eh? Drink Tim Hortons coffee, eh? Served in the Canadian Army, eh? Married a Canadian gal, eh? Live in Canada, eh? Is my content worthy? Or I don't have enough representation? Or I don't have some other excuse? Or I don't have this, or I don't have that, in order to please the masters in this game of bullshit. All right. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you guys decide what you want. Okay. The best way we can fight this, okay, is to write your MPs, and I'm talking email and snail mail and phone calls, and say, hey, enough of this garbage with C-11, 18, and 36. You're not going to be protecting anybody. Okay. You're not promoting Canadian content. That's the excuse they're going to use, because let's say they end up regulating podcasters who make $10 million. Then they go down the list and they start regulating podcasters who might make $100 or $10. And then what? Am I going to need a license? Am I going to have a license to do what I want to do? Right? Am I going to, do I need a license to do this every week? What's that going to cost me? More money we don't have? Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. You know, storms are brewing. Get your raincoat.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tuesday Rant, 3rd October, episode 233 of the Crusty podcast. Like I said, 1 billion cut from defense, the CRTCs plans to regulate the net, podcasts, and more. And of course, slack liberals blaming others on this beautiful October day. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. And once again, if you like to hear what you see, ladies and gentlemen, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all over your social media platforms. Every Tuesday, I do the Tuesday Rant. And every other Saturday, I just do a regular podcast where basically I do the same thing. I rant, I conjure up things, conspiracies, and I talk about liberty and freedoms, okay? Freedoms that we all want and liberty that we all need too. And tune in this Sunday too, ladies and gentlemen, if you can. I will be a special guest on Cypher and Fox's show, Northern Perspective After Dark. You'll see their listings on YouTube. 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time for all my friends and family and folk in Ontario and Quebec and on the East Coast of Canada, especially the United States. So please don't hesitate. Come on out and say hello. Ask me what you want to ask me. I don't mind. I'm an open book. Like I say, I do drop a few F-bombs. I don't swear so much around with Cypher and Fox. They don't swear a lot, but, they said the odd, bomb themselves too. But yeah, please check that out too. And Cypher and Fox do some great work. They make some great videos and put some good facts up there for you, the audience, to see and decipher on your own too. And if you like and hear it, see, you can also follow me and subscribe to me on Facebook, on Twitter, now X, Instagram, the Tube, and of course on Rumble. And check out my website there, www.crustycanuck.ca, where you can see my bio, see my information, links to my shop, and donate links. Please, every little bit helps if you'd like to. I wouldn't mind making this a full-time commitment, but I need wonderful people like you out there to make that happen. Give yourselves a round of applause. You guys are awesome. What can I say? I do this work for you too. I look at these cold, hard facts and criticize them with a very, very fine tooth or a sharp comb, and just say, fuck these clowns. Anyway, I digress. Carrying on again with this episode 233. So, slack liberals blame others. What else is new in the world of Canadian politics, ladies and gentlemen? People are still reaming over the Nazi-gate issue. People are still reaming over how we had this Waffen SS Ukrainian individual who fought alongside the Germans against the Russians. Now, regardless of the historical impacts of those years or not, that man still fought with the Nazis, which was an enemy of the Commonwealth of, of Russia too. Regardless of how aggressive Russia was at the time, they were pushing the Nazis back because they had a non-aggressive pact that happened, I think, from 1939 to 41 until Hitler said, fuck it, I'm going to take Russia. And then, look what happened to him. Anyhow, make a long story short, regardless of what side you're on, and I do make a mistake. His name was Anthony Rhoda, not Hoda, or whatever his name was. I don't know. It doesn't really matter anyway. I am so sick of these idiots, Mr. Rhoda or Rhoda, whatever. I'm tired. I am so fed up with the liberal brand since 2015. I would have to say, though, from my experience, the liberal brand since roughly 2007 has been nothing but garbage. And not just because of Justin Trudeau, because of people that are appointed in key positions, unqualified people calling the shots for you and me, people claiming that taxes are a good thing. And yet tell me how many countries have actually prospered from taxation, over taxation and taxation, honestly. Not too bloody many. And regardless of how you dress up a poop sandwich, you could put all the lettuce and tomato you want on those sandwiches that the liberal likes to give us. And regardless, it's still a poop sandwich. and it's going to taste like poop. So when I hear these cabinet ministers like Karina Gold, who was actually one of the earlier architects along with Stephen Guilbeault in regards to C11, C18, and C36, I have no sympathy for her at all. I have no sympathy for the new House Speaker. Yes, he's qualified. Any parliamentarian, anybody who's elected is qualified. But I also think he's being used too, because he's a black man. Okay. So you can sit there and praise this and praise that and praise this. Oh my God, we're the first black man who's the House Speaker. Okay, that's great. He's qualified. So it doesn't matter what color his skin is. Anyone who is elected to Parliament is qualified to be the Speaker, as far as I'm concerned. But I would like to suggest this, though. Okay. And you, my wonderful audience, if you care to back me up, let me know. Okay. If we're going to have a House Speaker in our House of Commons, then it should be an independent seat member. Okay. Or actually appoint somebody or have an election for House Speaker, regardless of what party they are. Now, that's just me. An election outside of Parliament so people can decide, not just a handful of buddies saying, hey, if you let me do this, I'll give this to you. Slap and tickle here. Ooh, pickle, 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 pickle. Yeah. That's just my suggestion. I don't know. What say you? Let me know there too. You can reach me, like I say here, the podcast on Podbean, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon, Grow Radio UK, and Player FM. And I'm also on iHeartRadio too, ladies and gentlemen. So if you like what you see, click like, subscribe, and check me out on all those platforms too before the CRTC regulates them. Because in case I might make $10 million. I don't know. We'll have to see. Hey, well, okay. Anyhow, carrying on with this episode, 233, the Tuesday Rant, 1 billion cut from defense, CRTC's plans to regulate the net podcast and more, slack liberals who blame others, like I just mentioned. Okay. Nothing wrong with having a military in this country. And if anybody in the boomer generation is listening to this podcast, there's more to our military life in this country than just being peacekeepers. I've made a point of saying this before, that in order to keep the peace, you have to learn how to make it and how to stand by it and defend it. You don't just go to a foreign nation wearing a blue beret under the United Nations and you say to two warring factions, now stop that. Let's get along here. It doesn't work that way. Still need your guns, still need your ammo, still need your boots, still need your kit, still need the tanks, still need the APCs, air support, ship support, whatever support you need, depending where you're going. And that has to be maintained. And history has proven that sometimes when you're caught with your pants down, you get it up the chuff. Right? And Canada's had its pants down now for a long fucking time. And enough is enough. And when it also comes to the CRTC regulations, all they are is just a governing body thinking they're doing us a favor, when basically what it is, they want more fucking revenue. Which goes to prove that there's some offices in this country that are getting so irrelevant by the day that they'll hang on to dear life and screw people like me and you out of a good time, out of watching your podcast or watching a movie or watching a comedian or even watching Brazilian dancers roll around the mud with their bikinis. Everything's going to be monitored and everything's going to cost you money. So like I said, write your MPs, get on them, get on your representatives. And it doesn't matter who they are, liberal, NDP, conservative, PPC, even to my Quebecers out there, write your block guys, because your block guys are really pushing this too. And there's some great content in French Canadian that's out there as well. So, something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. We could sit here all day and talk about the what if and the what if. It's the what is that's going to go on. I just read you a taste of that too. Like I said, I'll leave the descriptions. I'll leave the articles in my description for you there today. I've had a long day today. I've been working all day, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm kind of tired. So pardon me for garbling my language, but it's been a long day. And there's a few guys I work with that are feeling the sting and the pressure too when it comes to regulations and getting things done. And it's just getting frustrated for a lot of people. And, it's the government's fault. I'll say it. It's the government's fault.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Tuesday Rant, episode 233 of the Crusty Up podcast. Like I said, every Tuesday I do the Tuesday Rant, and then every other Saturday I do a full episode of just me going off the wall in a polite and sincere way, of course. You know, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. It's never stopped me before. Anyhow, if you like to hear what you see, click like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, please. Give me a comment or two, and share this all around your social media platform. Help us create the algorithm that's going to promote Canadian content properly. All points of view, all perspectives. Okay. And just to remind some individuals out there who engaged me on Twitter, or formerly Twitter, now X. Okay. I want to say something to these individuals that have wagged their finger at me. Get a grip, get a life, get out there and see the world. There's more to Canada than just the GTA or the Greater London, Ontario area. There's more to Canada than your comfort, because there's a lot of Canadians that have sacrificed a lot of time and effort to make sure that you get your cup of coffee and make sure you get your nice steak dinner with your loved one on a Friday fucking evening. Something to think about there, SJWs, and especially the social justice warriors that are 45 and up, who've had a pretty good life and a pretty good go so far. Don't take it for granted. You know what I mean? Anyhow, I have been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 3rd of October, 2023. I do wish nothing but good things, even though I promoted an idle threat there to some ignorant people, but I still wish good things for them too. But I also wish some humility on some of those individuals as well, so they understand what it takes to get things done. That it's not just typing in an address and calling skip the dishes to get me some more food. It's about getting out there and hustling and doing what's fucking right for people and what's right by you and your family too. But like I said, I have been Crusty Canuck on this 3rd of October, 2023. I wish good things for you all. Weather is starting to change a bit. It's kind of nice out. So if you're married, you have your girlfriend or your boyfriend, go for a nice little walk and see the colors. It's kind of nice. Grab a cup of coffee. Not a fancy coffee, just a cup of coffee, cream, sugar, cream or sweetener, whatever you're into. And just take a stroll and just take a look and see, yeah, this is pretty cool. Because there's a certain smell in the air. It's kind of nice in the fall. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. It's always something to embrace. And I suggest you give it a chance and you do the best of your ability. And just appreciate those moments. But like I said, do your best to help each other out in these trying times. And like I always say, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care all, and I'll see you this Saturday. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
Well, smack my ass and call me Judy.